We got a stream delay of 15 seconds, so kind of letting it spool up. There we go. Now we'll get to our countdown. That's three. That's two. That's uno. Also known as one. Blast off!
Hey!
Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Welcome to the Cosmic Cafe Show, where the paranormal is... Oh, I got these glasses on. Doggone it. Oh, what a hectic day. Thank you for hanging in there. We had just a mild terror attack by my computer. It threatened to crash on me. And so I was thinking we were not even going to be doing a show. So, hey, welcome to the Cosmic Cafe Show, where the paranormal, especially tonight, is very, very normal. Hey, this is our live daily specials. And I say live, I mean live. It's live, live, live. Daily specials, videocast. This being episode 73. Woohoo! 73. Can you believe it? Already 73 daily special episodes already. Gosh, time's flying by. Today's date is February 11th, 2016, and over the next few minutes we are going to highlight what we feel are the very best in space. UFOs, forget the abductions. They went crickets on us tonight. Bigfoots, we got zombies though, yes, and no ghosts or hauntings because they got spooked and they ran away, so we got more crickets for them. Oh well, and no video clip because my computer crashed earlier and I didn't get a chance to load it up, so we'll just save it for another night. But hey, forget about video clips. We have something much better. We have Bob Schroeder. Hey, Bob, how are you, buddy?
Eric, I am doing great, and I hope everything is going well out there in California.
Well, I tell you, the weather's going good, that's for sure.
Oh, it's got to be better than the Boston area. We're going to be minus 11 degrees this weekend.
Oh,
So for the people out in California, they should really appreciate the fabulous weather out there.
yeah.
And as soon as I win the Powerball, I'm coming out.
You're still trying to get that Powerball. Well, I tell you, wasn't that something? $1.5 billion. Gosh.
Holy mackerel. Each of the three people, after discounting and after taxes,
Yeah.
they took home cash on the barrelhead, $200 million each.
Wow.
I mean, and that's money they can put right in the bank, you know,
Wow.
or multiple banks.
Yeah, I would think from multiple banks.
Yeah. And
Wow. Well, that would be an interesting problem to have. One I'll probably never realize in my lifetime, but I keep buying those tickets.
it could happen. It could
Yeah.
happen.
Hey, it's
Yeah,
worth $2 to find out.
Oh, absolutely. And lightning does strike
Yeah.
from time to time, you know. And so anyway, I can tell you that on the East Coast, people play it during the winter. They play the Powerball feverishly.
Well,
we are desperate to win it.
besides the lottery, let me just tell everybody, Bob is an author. He's also a super, super smart guy, but he tries to take really complex math and physics and quantum mechanics and all that stuff and tries to boil it down into a language that you and I can understand. And he has a really awesome book called Solving the UFO Enigma, How Modern Physics is Revealing the UFO Technology. Revealing the technology in UFOs. I purchased his book a couple of years ago. It's available on Amazon, all that. We'll give you all those details here in a couple of minutes. But let me get over to the paranormal news. And while I'm doing that, there is your book, Bob. You might recognize it right there on Amazon for everybody. All you have to do is just go ahead and search Robert L. Schroeder or the book's title. Either way, you'll get there to it and you can buy it. And... Hey, Bob makes enough to probably go out and buy a lottery ticket every once in a while from those sales.
It's selling pretty good actually. I keep getting orders coming in, and
that's awesome.
And and I appreciate you putting it up there. You know, and
Gosh, it's 9 o'clock on the East Coast now, so I appreciate you staying up and hanging out with us here at the cafe, doing a little bit of cafe after dark your time. Although we're gonna keep it PG, folks. Don't worry.
Yeah. And
We don't want. We definitely don't want. Never mind. I'm just not even. No, forget it.
it,
But hey, if the astute members of the cafe, if you have been watching the episodes since day one, you'll know that Bob has been on the cafe's TV broadcast show in season one, and he has a new episode which will be out later this year for season two. So, but hey, in the meantime, we have him here with us tonight, so make sure you get over there to our chat room. You want to ask Bob questions, especially when it starts getting a little complicated. You're welcome to chat him free. It's free to go to the chat room. It's free to get on the chat. You can use an anonymous name if you want, whatever. So we made it really super easy for you to do that. And all you have to do is go to ccs.chat, ccs.chat for Cosmic Cafe Show. Or if you prefer to type it all out, it's cosmiccafeshow.com/chat. I like ccs.chat better.
yeah.
And I'll keep monitoring the chat room, and as the people come in during the live broadcast, we will, if they so choose to ask questions, I will make you aware of them, huh, Bob?
Eric, I'm happy to get questions. In fact, love to get questions.
Yes.
Because a lot of this stuff kind of needs to be clarified, and so I encourage people to ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions about some of the physics, because I admit that it does get a little deep, and so sometimes it helps when I get questions, so I kind of know what people are thinking.
Okay, well, we'll let people not be afraid to ask you questions. And tell you what, if you got a lamp or something that you can put in front of you and maybe brighten up your face just a little bit more, that would be awesome. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get to the news headlines here. And for our first story, we have yes, for our top story, before we start the other paranormal headlines, we have this awesome reminder which was sent out by NASA Marshall News today. And you know what? It's a really good introspective article that they posted, but it's NASA's 40 years of awesomeness. Well, I don't think that's what they titled it, but that's what I titled it. 40 years of awesomeness. I mean, what is your favorite NASA spinoff? Invisible braces, huh? Or do you like the grills, Hey, NASA's responsible for invisible braces. Cardiac pumps, which have saved my dad's life. I'm kind of pro cardiac pumps. Hearing implants. What's that you say? Well, now you don't have to do that anymore because NASA invented hearing implants. Other items like PC computer. Yeah, that thing that crashed on me earlier today. Well, NASA was definitely responsible for helping with that. How about the video camera? A lot of people don't realize that video camera there in your little smartphone. Well, guess what? Origins from NASA. Yes. 40 years of awesomeness. NASA never gets the respect that they deserve. And people always think, oh, NASA costs us too much money. Let's cut the program. Why are we trying to go to Mars? Yeah, we should feed the homeless and the hungry. Well, excuse me, but NASA has created so many awesome things, from clothing to all kinds of different amazing materials, that has made modern life so much better for everybody, including the homeless. So I'm just going to leave it at that because we don't get political here. Now let's mosey on to our space and UFO category, and what we have is thanks to the real Anonymous for tweeting out this interesting story. The director of the UFO movie The Phoenix Incident believes his story according to the Boston Globe. Okay, well, I'm glad he believes his story. Actually, what I found interesting, though, is that he's going to be presenting his new movie at the Boston Science Fiction Festival on Thursday. Now, if I'm not mistaken, our friend Russ Emanuel will be at the same festival with his movie Occupants. Yes, you may remember Russ, been on the Cosmic Cafe's daily specials a couple of different times. And actually, coming up in about 10 days from now, we will be live broadcasting his Saturday evening event at 5 p.m. Arizona time. I think right now they're same as Pacific time. I don't know. They don't do they're smarter than the 49 other states because they refuse to do that clock switching thing. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. Anyways, Arizona, we're going to be in Tempe, Arizona, live broadcasting that comic book launch. It's a spin-off of the feature film that they came out with, Occupants. So I feel super honored and, well, frankly, lucky to have been asked by Russ and his team to do that live broadcast. There's going to be some pretty awesome things going on there, so you're not going to want to miss it. And let's see here. For that article in the Boston Globe, I just, sorry about this, Bob. I know you're from Boston area and everything, but this is super annoying. You go to their website, you try and read the article, and hey, okay, I get it. They have a pop-up, hey, you want to join our mailing list or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But usually, like on my website, you can just click the little X button and it just disappears. Well, no, theirs is non-dismissible. You can't get rid of it. You can't read around it either because it takes up like the whole center of the screen. So just pointing out, if you're a person who gets highly aggravated by those sorts of things like I do, I'm going to keep your blood pressure down, save your life right there, because, I don't want you having a heart attack or a stroke or something because you get so angry at it like I did earlier today. Yeah, so see, your buddy Eric is looking out for you. I really care about you. I really do. No, I really do. I really do. I swear. Anyways, okay, so for our aliens and extraterrestrials category tonight, thanks to UFO sightings and news, those awesome people over there, they're always tweeting out some great stuff. And tonight, yes, no exception, they tweeted out this great story. Has a stranded alien actually attempted to obtain assistance and help from our friends over at MUFON? Well, they have a full detailed article all about it, but you know what? Coming up tomorrow evening, by coincidence, we have returning guest Jeff Krause, who, as you may remember, is the Southern California State Director for MUFON, and as you know, he also moonlights as a field investigator for MUFON. He also writes a lot of articles, so I'm going to be sure to ask him. But we'll have that full article up on the Inquisitor.com's website for you. And where will that be? That will be in our daily specials show recap, which comes to your email box free of charge. All you have to do is, tomorrow morning, it comes to your email box. And all you have to do, my friend, is go to the website, CosmicCafeShow.com, and over on the left-hand column, you'll see where it says email list. Just type in your email. Make sure you check the spam folders and everything because it's going to send you a verification thing. And it's all managed by WordPress. They're the ones that do it. So anyways, check your email. Make sure you click the verify. Otherwise, you won't start getting the emails. That way we cut out the spammers that just, go out and put in a bunch of fake emails or, put in their friend's email as a lark or something. So we want you verifying it, keep it all legit. Oh my goodness. It's from our Not a Real Sponsor category. The neighbor's old Xmas tree. Jingle bells, oh Tannenbaum, and all that other holiday cheer can never really totally be lost. Now thanks to that neighbor's old Xmas tree, which continues to lay in the gutter out front of their house. Yes, even despite today being trash pickup day yet once again. Oh, yes, friends. The trash and garbage was collected, but not your neighbor's old Xmas tree. But you know how wonderful it is to keep all those fresh Christmas memories from 2 months ago in your mind as we are traveling through almost halfway into February. Hey, Valentine's Day is in a couple of days. By gosh. But hey, we can still reminisce about those great times next to Old Tannenbaum. Look how marvelous and splendorous it looks just lying there in the street gutter. Anyways. And for our next category, our alien abduction experiencer category, we have crickets. And for some reason, I think I hit the wrong thing. We have crickets. Crickets. Where are our crickets? I don't hear them playing. Do you hear them playing? There they go. You can hear them, right? You hear the crickets there, Bob? You might not be able to hear them.
No, I don't. Oh. No.
Well, you'll have to watch the replay to hear the
Yeah.
crickets.
Wait, I'll turn up the sound.
No, I don't think it helps. I had Bob Evans on last night. He couldn't hear audio either, except for he could hear me, but he couldn't hear the rest of it. Okay, well, enough of the crickets. Enough of the crickets already. All right. So, Bigfoot. Our Bigfoot category tonight. Now, this is interesting. Thanks to that awesome dude, Les Stroud. He posted this very cool picture of him and Stacy Brown. Hey, I like the last name. They were chilling on the set of Bigfoot Bounty. And, of course, while they're so busy posing for the picture, they missed the big furry fella. See him waving there in the background? Oh, I wasn't supposed to point that out. It's supposed to be like a subtle metaphor. Oh my, we're back to the crickets again. Forget the sound effect. We'll just mosey along to we gotta get to the zombies. Oh yes, zombies. Thanks for the warning from Newsweek. Yes, Newsweek. Hey, they're posting this story about a zombie apocalypse. Quotey things. Yes. Zombie apocalypse. It's a new clause in Amazon.com's terms of service. So, when you blow through those terms of service and you never read them, I think Amazon guys were having a little fun goofing on us all, just seeing, does anybody ever read these? Well, so they put in a zombie apocalypse clause, and it says, hey, if a zombies attack the world, all bets are off. And that kind of totally bums me out because, honestly, I love same-day delivery. I mean, what if you need to order a zombie machete or something like that, or maybe a zombie costume? You can get in the costume and pretend to be a zombie so you're not eaten by zombies, because they'll say, oh, you're a zombie like me, so I won't eat you. And then they'll walk by. Well, if Amazon cancels their same-day delivery and you can't get your zombie costume or your zombie machete to defend yourself, then, well, anyways. And by the way, I just also want to mention the Amazon Echo. You saw the Super Bowl ad for it. One thing they forgot to point out, Alexa has a very sexy voice. Very sexy. I love my Alexa. By the way, Alexa tells you jokes. This morning, after I listened to my morning news briefing, I got to listen to her tell me some jokes. There were a couple of really good ones. Do you know why, Bob, maybe you'll like this joke, okay?
Yeah.
This is from Alexa this morning. Why do ghosts use elevators?
How come?
Because they like them because they lift their spirits.
That's good.
That's good, right? That was from Alexa at Amazon. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know why I have that slide. Okay, so hey, did you like all these stories? Well, everything except for the crickets.
They were great.
I tweeted them out on CCS Live hashtag, so just go to Twitter, and there's none on Facebook today. These were all Twitter sources, so thank you to all my friends on Twitter. Yes, and all you need to do to find the stories easily is just go to Twitter and type in CCS Live hashtag in the search bar, and it should pull them all up for you. You can also go to my Twitter page at Cosmic Cafe Show. Excuse me. I should... Anyways, hey, by the way, while you're there on the website, if you're not already following us, why don't you join the 13,000 other awesome people that are following the Cosmic Cafe Show and join in the fun. And by the way, I listen to a nationally syndicated, longtime radio host who claims to be very technically gifted, but seems to hate Twitter. I totally disagree. Agree with. Okay, I
And
mean he's obviously entitled to his opinion because he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm worth like hundreds of dollars.
and
But still, come on, buddy. You can do Twitter. It's very, very easy. Once you do Twitter, you're going to realize it's way more awesome than pretty much all the other social media. So I don't know why he was complaining so much about it, but anyways, I don't know why I mentioned that because this show's completely about non-political stuff. So, well, I guess the people that know who I'm talking about probably think, hey, Eric's pretty awesome. He listens to that guy. And the people that don't know who I'm talking about are probably thinking, hey, Eric's a douchebag. And with that, that's our news. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Eric. And that was a terrific rundown of things going on.
Well,
And
thank you.
and I like that joke too. I got to pay attention to Alexa. And
You have the Amazon Echo with Alexa?
no, oh, is that where you get it? No, I don't think I do. Is
Oh,
it? And
she's awesome, and the Echo
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah, and you know what? I didn't believe it or not, I was at the casino during the Super Bowl, and
Okay.
trying to make my fortune, trying to get rich quick,
Okay.
and I had no luck, and
Oh,
I lost $160, and um,
oh, that would have pretty much paid for your Amazon Echo.
oh, too bad, and
Yeah.
but. Hope springs eternal, and I keep going to the casino. and but it's I did see part of the game.
Uh
They had
huh.
a sports bar, kind of just outside where the casino was,
Yeah.
in the mall area, and so I kind of every once in a while I ran over there, and I was looking at it. I was very surprised. I thought for sure the Panthers were going to blow away the Broncos, but it didn't happen,
Nope. Nope.
and and that kind of amazed me because I guess the big thing was the defense on the Broncos. Their defense was pretty awesome,
Yeah. Yeah. They definitely surprised a lot of people. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, yeah, and
Well, hey, you got a ton of slides, and we only got we got a little bit of late start. We can go a little after 7, but usually we try and wrap it up by 7. But how about if we get to your slides?
sure, okay, yep,
And
and
this is the first slide.
oops, no,
Nope.
that's oh, you know what? I wonder.
Let me
It should
refresh it.
be.
Hold on a second.
That's way. Oh, I know. That's the second part.
Yeah, hang on a second. I had to
Yeah.
combine the slide shows. Hang on. Let me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know what I got to do. I'm doing a screen share, and I got to reset the slides.
Okay.
So what I need to do is, well, I just goofed it up, didn't I? There we go. How do I restart this without causing all kinds of trouble? Oh boy.
Oh. and oh, can you use the arrow buttons on your computer?
Well, no.
Oh. Okay.
Hang on
And
a second here. There must
okay.
be
And
the. Tell you what, you go ahead and talk about this slide while I reset it. How's that?
oh, okay. This slide here. In order to explain it, I need the previous slides. But
Well,
that's okay.
tell them
Yeah,
about your
but what I
book.
can, okay, sure. What I can say, Eric, is yeah. While you're working on that, basically what I'm doing. That's the slide with the cover of the book. That's number one. That's
Right.
where it's
Let's
that's it. That's
go
it.
back to
And
view, normal.
okay.
There we
And
go.
there it is. That's our baby. And okay, yeah, that's it. And
And
um,
that should fix that. I'm doing
And
like a screen share thing because it didn't. There we go.
okay, oh, good.
I think
That's
we're
perfect.
good.
It's right in dead center.
Now,
Perfect. Yeah.
how do I go
And,
from slide to slide though? Now that's my next question.
oh, I'm not sure. And
Well, you start talking about this slide, and I'll try and figure it out.
oh, sure, absolutely. Okay, this is the cover of the book here,
Uh huh.
and the title, of course, is "Solving the UFO Enigma," and the subtitle is "How Modern Physics is Revealing the Technology of UFOs," and in a nutshell, I believe that modern physics is moving toward an explanation of UFO technology. And I think it's really exciting.
Uh huh.
And I think people have to pay attention to this because I believe possibly within the next 5 to 10 years, we will understand the kind of technology that will allow us to, at least theoretically, if not actually, be sending probes to other planets. And there's much more to it. If we can get to the second slide, we can. Uh, oh, there we are. Hey, we got it. And okay, I don't know if the audience can see this, but this is the cockpit view of a UFO that ended up going directly in front of a TWA flight in a UFO, a close encounter, or right directly in front of it in over Lake Michigan in 1981. And what's important in this, in connecting modern physics to UFO technology, what's critical is what we have to do is we have to be able to understand what the characteristics of UFOs are, and then relate that to what's going on in modern physics. So, one of the characteristics of UFOs is their unbelievable ability to make sudden turns and to accelerate at blinding speeds. And in this particular incident, Captain Phil Schultz of TWA, he and his first officer observed this UFO making it shot down directly in front of their aircraft and made a 20G turn off to the left side of their craft. It came so close to their airliner that they braced for an impact. That's how close it was. And but yet this thing was able to get out of the way almost instantly. And what's very interesting about that is that it indicates that somehow they figured out how to overcome inertial forces. Inertia is the resistance to acceleration, and somehow these objects are able to overcome inertia. And just to put that into perspective, Ted Phillips from MUFON many years ago did a study on the weight of UFOs based on imprints left on the ground after UFOs had landed. And he estimated that the typical disc-shaped UFO that might be 50 to 100 feet in diameter, they weigh in the range of 20, 30, 40 tons. So this is an enormous amount of mass, and yet these things are able to accelerate at blinding speeds. So we have to be able to explain their ability to overcome inertia, and we have to connect that, and we can do that by connecting it to what's going on in modern physics.
Okay. So let's move on to the next slide.
Okay.
There we go.
And here's another characteristic of UFOs. And Eric, this is one of the most fascinating ones. Many times pilots have observed these UFOs becoming partially transparent and then totally disappearing. And this particular case here was Captain Charles Dubac of Air France, and he observed a UFO in 1994 near Paris. This UFO was 800 feet in diameter, and
Wow.
as this is huge, and we have no craft that's big.
How
The
big is
biggest,
like a 747 from tail to tip to tail?
well, I think wing to wing, which is the larger dimension,
Yeah.
is something like 240 feet.
So this is at least 3 to 4 times bigger than that 747.
Exactly, and undoubtedly way more massive. Probably hundreds or even 1,000 tons. And so or more bigger than that actually.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this particular 800-foot UFO, they picked it up on radar and they observed it visually. It was picked up by both ground radar as well as the onboard radar in they were in a 747, and as they watched it, Eric, the thing became partially invisible, partially transparent, and then totally disappeared. And it disappeared on the radar at exactly the same instant. So that's if we're going to understand UFO technology, we have to understand how these things are becoming invisible, what's causing them to become partially transparent and then totally disappear. And if we could move to the next slide.
Just a quick note: when you leaned in like that, it brightened up your face.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it makes it
Yeah,
because right now your screen is so small. It makes it a little easier to see you.
oh,
I don't know how comfortable that is for you long
yeah,
term, but
it's easier sitting back. Yeah,
yeah, but
I guess I'll stay in the dark here. And but anyway, here's a much more. The other report of a disappearing UFO was back in 1994. This one here occurred up in Canada, and a private airline pilot spotted a UFO. He was a corporate. He was flying a corporate jet. He was out near Calgary, Canada,
yeah,
and in 2014, December 2014, so this is about a year ago, and he observed a typical cylindrical shaped UFO that became partially transparent and then totally disappeared. He could actually see the road through the UFO, a kind of a blurred image of the road. So I want to emphasize that this characteristic of UFOs has been going on for a long time. So these are some of the things that we need to be able to explain or relate to modern physics if we're going to be in a position to understand UFO technology. And if we could flip to the next one, Eric.
okay,
And so the two big questions on UFO technology are, number one, how do they get here?
yeah,
And then the other big question is, how are these craft able to perform this inertia-defying acrobatics in our atmosphere? And so we'll look at how do they get here. We'll focus on that for now. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to the second thing tonight. And so if we could flip to the next slide.
just real quick, what you mean by inertia defying is when someone's UFO like goes like this and then like shoots back, like so it like zigzags.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yep. Well, actually, Eric, even ordinary acceleration, like when a UFO accelerates at blinding speed, if these things, as Ted Phillips calculated, really have a mass of 20, 30, 40 tons, then for them to accelerate at that incredible speed is definitely overcoming inertia. I'll give an example that everybody will see right away. Think of a cannonball coming at. Okay, it's very heavy. They can weigh 30, 40, 50 pounds, And so when they blast a cannonball out of a cannon, it doesn't go as fast as people might think. It goes pretty fast, but if you observe it at different angles, at certain angles, you can actually see the cannonball.
Yeah.
However, if you have a bullet which has a much lower mass, just a couple ounces, you can't see it. It just goes at like 1,000 feet per second, and a cannonball cannot go that fast. And the reason is a tiny object or something of very low mass can overcome inertia pretty easily, but a heavy object cannot. It takes quite a bit. Newton's law of motion. It takes a great deal of effort or to accelerate a heavier object. F is equal to ma, and But anyway, what we're going to do now is, in order to figure out how UFOs can be connected to modern physics, the characteristics of UFOs, we're going to have to look at some physics, and that's the bad news for the audience. But the good news is there will be no quizzes or exams tonight.
Right.
So we can just sit back and relax and just enjoy the slideshow here, and there's the two pillars of modern physics are general relativity and quantum mechanics. General relativity looks at the world of the very big planets, stars, galaxies, and the universe as a whole. Quantum mechanics looks at the world of the very small, subatomic world, atoms, electrons, quarks, protons, neutrons, that kind of stuff. And so on the slide here about it, it just so happens that 2015, just last year, was the 100th anniversary of general relativity. And I believe that gravity is going to be a key to understanding the UFO physics. So it's very important to understand that. And if we can flip to the next slide. Now, here's where the fun begins. This is the actual Einstein field equations.
Hold on a second. Let me take a drink.
I hope it's a potent drink. And
it's water.
Oh, just water.
Of course.
But when we get now. As I said, you don't have to worry too much about the math here, but I wanted to show what the actual field equations look like. And what this formula says is, on the left-hand side, it describes how space is curved, and on the right-hand side represents the mass and energy that is responsible or causes the space-time to curve in a certain way. And the curvature of space-time, according to Einstein, is what causes the effect that we call gravity. So the distortion of space-time is what creates the force of gravity. And now if we can flip to the next slide. Yes,
Bob, you're starting to kill me here.
No, don't. I don't want people to be scared by all these formulas. The top formula there is just exactly the same as the one on the previous page. It turns out that the Einstein field equations are very, very difficult to solve, and what I did is, as I mentioned, the top equation there is identical to the one on the previous page. It's the summary version of the Einstein field equations. By the way, notice that there's an S on the end of equation. It's because they are plural. They're actually a set of equations, and that's what makes them so difficult to solve. And what I did, the only difference on that first equation from the one on the previous page is, on the left side you see the R term with two subscripts, two Greek letters. And what I did is I exploded that out. So on the second equation, you can see what that term equals, which is that a group of Greek letters there. Those are partial derivatives there. And then I colored one of those terms in blue, and I exploded that out on the third term, the third equation on the bottom there. And you can see what that blows out to. And again, it's more partial equations and lots of fun stuff. And,
wow.
Yeah, you got it. The reason, Eric, I did this is I wanted to show how difficult it is, how complicated the field equations are. And if you think about it, each one of these terms blows out, and then the terms in the second equation blow out to other things. And so if we can go to the next page.
Oh, gosh.
and
Bob, you're killing me.
And I've been studying these field equations, Eric, and I have to admit it just, oh man, is it hard. It's not easy. But it gets even more complicated than what I showed on the previous page. You actually end up with 10 copies of what I showed on the previous page, and each one of those blows out into a group of other equations. And by the way, the reason why this looks shorter than the one on the previous page is the left-hand term I abbreviated just into a single letter with 2 subscripts, just to make it a little easier to see. And yeah, but the incredible thing is, you have to. Each one of these things consists of. Go back quick. You're going ahead too fast. There. Okay.
I'm just trying to keep the audience.
Okay. And so anyway, this is extremely difficult to solve. So what? So what did physicists, when they first learned about the equations in 1915, were all excited because they couldn't wait to use them to solve big problems in physics.
Right.
And however, once they realized how difficult they were to solve, their general reaction is shown on the next slide.
Yes. Oh my God.
You've got to be kidding. And so
I'm doing that too.
And I am too. And I can tell you. So what's interesting here is that in early 1916. So the field equations were published at the very end of 1915. So at about March of 1916,
by the way, folks, just a reminder, 1915. That's like when they were still riding around on horses and buggies, and no computers, and no iPads, no Power PCs, no... This is all sharpen your pencil and get your chalkboard out, because we're going to be here for a while type of math.
No NASA at that time either. No space program, nothing.
Nothing. Just horses, buggies, some automobiles running around.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So I guess we mosey along here.
Go back quick to the other one, because that gets it slightly out of order. So Einstein was. You can imagine his surprise, because for the first 4 or 5 months that the field equations were out there in the scientific community, the only solutions were approximations. Even Einstein, his first solutions were all approximations. And so you can imagine his surprise when he gets a letter from a German soldier serving on the Eastern Front. Mind you, this is 1915. Between 1914 and 1918 was the First World War.
Right.
And so Einstein was back in Berlin at this time, and he gets a letter from a German soldier fighting on the Eastern Front with the first exact solution to the field equations.
Oh, no kidding.
Isn't that amazing? And so you can go to the next slide here.
That must have been one of those alien hybrids.
Well, he looks pretty human.
Well,
and he's bald.
that's the whole purpose between the alien hybrids, is they're supposed to look human.
And it was the first exact solution was by Lieutenant Carl Schwarzschild in 1916. He was an artillery officer on the Eastern Front.
Wow.
And everybody on the next slide will recognize his first exact solution. You can flip to the next one. And okay, I hope everybody can read that. It says
sure.
the Schwarzschild.
No problem.
Excellent. Schwarzschild black hole. And the only thing, don't worry about reading there's the formula on the right, but the key takeaway from this slide is that anything that falls into a black hole cannot escape, and that includes things going at the speed of light, including light itself. Most people are familiar with that a light light waves that get too close to a black hole actually fall into the black hole, and they cannot escape. So that's important to UFO technology, as we will see. So we can flip to the next one.
Before we do the next one, I just want to remind everybody we're talking about Bob's book, Solving the UFO Enigma, how modern physics is revealing the technology of UFOs. And I know it seems really complicated what we're talking about, and you should have seen Bob's original group of slides. And I think it was about twice as much, many slides. But Bob's book, I actually bought the book, as I mentioned earlier. I read the book, and taking the time to read through the book, yeah, it does start to make your brain hurt, and you got to walk away from it a couple of different times. At least I did. But I just wanted to make sure that you know that even though it's all kind of not making a whole lot of sense right now, watch this video on the replay after you buy his book on Amazon and give yourself a chance to kind of digest it, because it really does make sense once you've read his book. And you can watch this show. Actually, we have a lot more time than we did when we did the TV show. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that for you, Bob. And also so the audience doesn't think it's completely hopeless.
Thank you.
So
Eric.
with that, you're talking about black holes, which we all love. We all love black holes. So I'll let you continue.
Eric, thank you for mentioning the book there. I appreciate that very much. And
absolutely.
This slide here shows it's a NASA slide, and it shows the tremendously powerful magnetic fields that are believed to exist around black holes. Oh, and by the way, believe it or not, we've never seen a black hole, except we think we're seeing them in the galactic centers, the center of galaxies, and because they're we have not yet produced a micro black hole at the Large Hadron Collider, a particle accelerator in Geneva, Switzerland.
Right.
But we hope to be able to create one soon. We can move on to... Oh, by the way, that strong magnetic field, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. The magnetic field, the strong magnetic field that's around a black hole, because that's going to pop up later. You'll see.
And since you mentioned gravitational waves, I noticed the mainstream media finally picked up on the story that we were talking about last week here on Daily Specials. But yeah, scientists believe that they can now see the gravitational waves and prove that they exist and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we talked about it last week, but the mainstream media is finally getting around to it. I guess they were so busy covering election stuff and primary stuff and yelling at who sucks and who doesn't suck as bad and who sucks more and who has stinky feet and who has bad breath and, all that important stuff in politics.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get into that those stories tonight, but I just, since you mentioned it, I thought I'd just mention real quick in case somebody's going, hey, why didn't you talk about gravitational waves as your top story today? It's because I talked about it last week there, feller. Yes. All right. Well, let's move on. There we go. Quantum mechanics.
And this is the other major pillar of modern physics, quantum mechanics.
Yes.
And in a nutshell, all it's really about is that back at the turn of the previous century, 1900, it was thought that energy could only change in it was thought that energy was continuous, but it was discovered that actually energy can only at the subatomic level, energy only changes at a integer multiples of what is now known as the Planck constant, and that came, and it may seem not too important, but it's hugely important because it means that at a very tiny scale, the universe is quantized. It's broken up into pieces, and it's not continuous. And so this came as a total shock to the physics community at 116 years ago. And we can move to the next slide here.
Speaking of quantum mechanics, we also reported on that supercomputer that was a joint project with Google and the government, the quantum mechanics computer that is 1 million times, or I'm sorry, 100 million times faster than your desktop computer.
Wow.
And that's using quantum mechanics. So, incidentally, if anybody did tune in, or I was mentioning Bob's book. We do get to the juicy stuff, but basically Bob's laying the groundwork that makes the juicy stuff more understandable. Just so you know, because basically what he has figured out is with all these the science that we as a modern society know and understand, and some of it's, or most of it's been proven. There's a little bit of it that we're still waiting. It's still theory, technically. It hasn't been technically proven. But he's getting around to showing you how UFOs actually can exist and do what they do because of the math and the science actually does exist for it. So now your next slide.
Yep. Yep. Thank you, Eric. And here's the actual Planck formula that shows how the energy can only change in integer multiples of the Planck constant, and the Planck constant is the letter H there, and it was discovered, of course, by Max Planck back in 1900, and we can flip to the next slide, and this is the Schroeder equation, which describes subatomic behavior in terms of waves, and people have probably heard of wave-particle duality. It turns out that subatomic particles can behave both as waves and or as particles, and it's one of the mysteries of quantum theory. But this formula here is one of the most important in quantum theory and is used by scientists around the world who are studying quantum mechanics. And so now let's see, where are we? Can we look at the next slide here? Aha.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. Cheers.
More formulas. Give me another drink. I have to confess, Eric, my daughter made me put this one in. And she said, "Dad, there's so much science, got to lighten it up a bit."
Yeah.
And so in order to figure out how UFOs work, we do have to do a bit more physics here, and we have to understand how the universe is organized. What are the components of the universe? It turns out it's actually quite simple. There's only three fundamental components. There are matter particles, there are force particles, and then there's the space-time on which the matter and force particles interact with one another. And of course, people are familiar with matter particles. They've heard of electrons and protons and neutrons in the atom. And force particles are things like photons that carry the electromagnetic force, and then there's particles probably people are not too familiar with, like gluons that carry the strong nuclear force. But it turns out there is only 4 fundamental matter particles in the universe. There's an up quark, a down quark, a neutrino, and an electron. That's it. And there are other matter particles, but 99.999% of all the matter particles in the universe are just those 4. And the same thing is true for the force particles that carry the forces of nature. And there's really only 4 fundamental forces. There's the strong nuclear force, which keeps the nucleus of the atom together. There's the weak nuclear force, which is responsible for radioactive decay. Then there's electromagnetism, which we're all familiar with. And then gravity, which we're all too familiar with when we try to get up in the morning and go to work. And, and we're stumbling out of bed. And until our first cup of coffee, gravity seems like an absolutely insurmountable force.
Yes.
So we can flip to the next slide. Okay. It turns out that scientists are vastly more interested in forces than they are in matter particles, although they're interested in both. But the reason is the force particles, or the forces of nature, make things happen. Now, if you wonder what most physicists are doing, what they're studying, well, one of the biggest things that they're studying in physics is trying to reunite the 4 fundamental forces of nature back to the super force that was believed to exist at the very beginning of the universe. And so electromagnetism, weak nuclear force, strong nuclear force, and gravity were once combined at the beginning of the universe as a single super force. And that's what huge numbers of physicists in various ways are working on. We can flip to the next one, Eric.
There we go.
Thank you. And you can see here the evolution of the universe, that at the time of the Big Bang, about 14 billion years ago, the first 2 forces that appeared were the Gut force, G-U-T, and then the gravity force in red over there on the right. Then the Gut force, which stands for Grand Unified Theory, broke into the strong nuclear force and the electroweak force, and then the electroweak broke to the electromagnetism and the weak nuclear force. And the 4 forces we see today are the ones circled in red. And so that's what scientists are doing. And it turns out they're trying to go backwards, and they're trying to reunite these forces both theoretically and experimentally. So believe it or not, they've actually made good progress, which we can see on the next slide.
Sorry.
I
clicked the wrong button there.
No, that's it. That's
okay.
it. And so the first one there, they've actually had good success in these unification theories. They've united the electric and magnetic forces through Maxwell's laws into electromagnetism. It was once thought that these were separate forces, but we now know they are actually a single force, which we see as electromagnetism. And then the second big thing is they've actually united in particle accelerators electromagnetism with the weak nuclear force into what is now known as the electroweak force. And what's incredible about this was way back in the 1970s that they were first observed in particle accelerator experiments, the electroweak force. So they know that we're on the right track in trying to reunite these forces, because this was theoretical and now it's been confirmed. And they're working on uniting the strong nuclear force with the electroweak to form the Gut force. They have some promising experiments. They haven't done it yet. They haven't confirmed it, but I think they will eventually. But you'll notice if you look at the unification theories that they've got so far, there's one force that's missing, and that force is the force of gravity.
Yeah.
And so how come they haven't been able to include gravity in the unification theories? We can flip to the next slide. Thank you, Eric. And the reason is gravity is incredibly weak compared to the other forces of nature. And it may be difficult to read that slide, but you can see that the electromagnetic force alone is 10 to the 36 power stronger than gravity. Gravity's at a strength of 1. And you can see that all the other forces are exponentially stronger than gravity.
Yeah.
And in fact, so electromagnetism 10 to the 36, that's the number 1, followed by 36 zeros.
Wow.
Holy mackerel. That is absolutely staggering. I mean, it's phenomenal, And so the question is, why is gravity so weak? In fact, the hierarchy problem, there's another way to look at the hierarchy problem. They call this problem is so big in physics, it actually has a name. It's referred to as the hierarchy problem.
Wow.
But the hierarchy problem is also equivalent to what is known as the puzzle of the weak mass versus the Planck mass. If all those subatomic particles that we talked about a few minutes ago were at the Planck mass, which is 10 to the 16 power greater than the weak mass that we actually see, then gravity would interact just as strongly as the other forces in nature. But unfortunately, if the particles were at the Planck mass rather than the weak mass that we see them at, even though it would solve the hierarchy problem, the bad news is the universe would disintegrate. And yet that's the only way it can be solved that they can see. And so to give you an idea of this, how serious this problem is of the universe disintegrating, unless they can solve, if the particles were at the Planck mass, I went to an expert to find out the magnitude of this problem. You can go to the next slide.
Okay, well, before we jump to the next slide, again, I just want to remind everybody we are talking with Bob Schroeder, and Bob is the author of this book, Solving the UFO Enigma, How Modern Physics is Revealing the Technology of UFOs. And I know we're struggling through. This is actually just a small teaser. Bob does seminars, and he's been on a lot of different national radio programs, and so we're very blessed to have Bob here. He's been a long-term friend of the Cosmic Cafe. He was in our first season, actually. And I just wanted to remind everybody about your book. And the book goes into more detail and makes it easy. I actually own the book, so it makes it easy to actually I guess I should say easy to understand all this. And luckily, Bob's also spelling it out for us here on the video. So you can actually use this video as a go-to guide later after you buy the book on Amazon, and read the book, watch the video. But he is getting to, basically, he's laying all the groundwork here so you can understand the physics, because we're going to get to the really juicy stuff here next. I see the slides coming up. Okay. And this is where it's going to get more and more fun. And speaking of fun, we'll pull up the next slide.
and this slide here, of course, everybody recognizes Homer with his donut.
Yes.
And so I was referring to how the magnitude of the problem, that if all the subatomic particles were at the Planck mass, the universe would disintegrate. And and Homer is pondering what this means. And you mean my favorite donut shop will disappear?
Yeah.
And in order to solve this problem, we're going to have to see why the hierarchy problem exists. Why is gravity so much weaker than the other forces in nature? And if we can flip to the next slide.
Yep.
And fortunately, modern physics is starting to come up with new ideas. They used to believe that we lived in a 4-dimensional universe,
Mm-hmm.
so that's 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. But in order to solve the hierarchy problem and also to reunite the 4 fundamental forces of nature, physicists have been forced to look at new concepts. And one of these is the idea that has been developed over the last several decades that we may live in more than 4 dimensions. The larger universe, and in fact, right now, one of the basic theories out there, and one of the mainstream theories now, they believe we may live in an 11-dimensional universe.
Wow.
Now,
Did you say 11?
Yes, 11
Wow.
dimensions, and so it's not quite as bad as it seems, not as complicated, because
Yeah.
it turns out that 6 of those 11 dimensions are curled up at every point in space-time, and so that leaves only 5 larger dimensions. So we originally thought there were 4 larger dimensions, 3 of space, 1 of time.
Mm-hmm.
Now it looks like there's 5 larger dimensions, and so now they think there's 4 space dimensions and 1 time dimension. And if you look at this slide here, they think that there may be 2 membranes, space-time membranes, and the space-time membrane is actually our entire universe. And everything we see around us, when you go out at night and look at the stars up in the sky,
Yeah.
they're all on this membrane, according to these latest theories in physics. And but they also believe that there's another membrane on the right side of that slide that's exactly parallel to our universe.
Okay.
And now comes the possible explanation of the weakness of gravity. It turns out that there was something called string theory that people have probably heard of in the last 10 decade or so. Physicists have been working on string theory. It used to be thought that all the subatomic particles were infinitesimally small points, but about 15 years ago, they began playing with the idea that subatomic particles were little wiggling strings, and they believe that all the particles in nature, force particles and matter particles, are open-ended strings with the 2 open ends of the string stuck on the membrane we live on, which is on the left side there. That's those little green guys that are attached. Both ends are attached.
Okay.
With the exception of 1 particle, and that is a force particle. It's the graviton, which carries the gravity force. And the graviton is believed to be a closed loop. And that means it's not stuck on our membrane. It can travel in that space between the 2 universes, which is referred to as the bulk, in the middle there in red. And that could explain why gravity is so weak. However, this theory didn't exactly explain it because not enough gravitons could get into the bulk, according to this theory originally, to explain the weakness. It explained some of the weakness, but not all of it. So now we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric. And a new theory came out based on the 11-dimensional universe, but they just focused on the 5 large dimensions. And here we are getting we're almost there within a minute of the solution to how UFOs get to planet Earth.
Yay!
And so I apologize for all the physics, but we had to do that to see where things are moving, where the direction they're heading in. Well, a new theory called warp geometry was developed by a Harvard physicist and another physicist at Johns Hopkins University. And they believe that the other membrane that's parallel to the one we live on the left there, they believe that the membrane on the right is warped in such a way, it's kind of twisted and turned, that it attracts the gravitons that are floating in the bulk between the two membranes. It attracts the overwhelming majority of gravitons to its surface. So in other words, the closer you get to the other membrane, which is referred to as the gravity brain, the closer you get to it, the more gravitons cluster in closer to that other membrane. That means, and it turns out, according to their theory, the force of gravity inside the five-dimensional bulk, that space between the membranes, increases by 10 to the 16 power as you get closer to the gravity brain. The second, Eric, that I saw this theory, it dawned on me. I thought, hey, wait a minute, what if UFOs could somehow pull themselves off of our universe and go into the bulk? Then the deeper they got into the bulk, gravity gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, general relativity tells us that where gravity is strong, distance shrinks. So if those guys could get into the five-dimensional bulk here, then they could shorten the distance between stars, and then once they get to the next star, a planetary system, like they could move back out of the bulk. So like they could go in here and then go out there, and they would travel many, many light years, but in a very short period. We can move to the next one.
And that's frankly what excited me when I first saw your original lecture at MUFON. Was
and
what we're talking about now makes sense.
And Eric, this is, I believe that we UFO researchers may be able to point the physics community, the establishment physics community, in the right direction if we can prove that there's certain types of radiation coming from UFOs. And if we do see this type of radiation, it would just about confirm that they are using the technology we're talking about here. And so all this slide does here on this slide, it just shows that distance shrinks as you get closer to the gravity membrane. And we can move on to the next slide. And if UFOs are leaving our membrane, I believe the way they're doing it, and I don't, maybe tonight we may not have time to discuss this, but they surround their craft with a type of five-dimensional subatomic particle that we believe we're going to be producing in the Large Hadron Collider in the next few years. But I believe they surround their craft with KK gravitons, which stands for Kaluza-Klein gravitons, and the KK gravitons, their home, their natural home, is the bulk, the five-dimensional bulk. So if you're in our universe, on our membrane, and you can somehow create an envelope of these KK gravitons around your craft, the KK gravitons want to go home, just like E.T., you know. And they want to go into the five-dimensional bulk. So it would actually pull your spaceship into the five-dimensional bulk. But what would happen if you were a human observer looking at a UFO, you would see it become partially transparent and then totally disappear. And that's what I was showing at the beginning of the slideshow. I believe that is what's going on. And
because, you've researched thousands of witness accounts of
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. And I've only got maybe 7 or 8 of disappearing UFOs, but it's enough to establish a pattern,
Yeah.
And but I'm sure there's many more out there in the literature that I haven't seen yet. And so we can move on to the next slide.
Just real quick before we go to the next slide, I want to back up here because one thing, maybe I'm premature here. Maybe you're going to bring this up a little bit later, but just for the friends at home to get an understanding, the way I understand it is because of, like, let's say we wanted to go from here to, I don't know, let's just say Mars. Okay.
Yes.
And right now it would take us roughly, was it 11 months or something like that to go that distance?
That's right.
But if we use this technology that Bob's talking about, that I don't know why I can't draw that. Anyways, we would go into this, towards this fifth dimension, using these gravitons things. And this distance here might only be the distance between Earth and Mars, which might be 1 hour.
Exactly. Yep.
Instead of 11 months, or it might be 11 minutes instead of 11 months.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's what we're getting at. That's what the math and the physics and all that. So for us stupid people like me that don't talk physics very often,
but
this is basically what we're getting to. What Bob's research in his book goes into thoroughly explaining. So that way, but for the people that want the shortcut answer, I thought I would just bring that up right now. Now, am I a little premature on that, Bob?
No, Eric, that was perfect. That was perfect. The timing was perfect. And you're dead nuts right. That's exactly what I think is going on. And you're right. We don't necessarily just have to use this just to go to other stars. We can use it to explore this technology. We can use it to explore our own solar system.
Yeah.
And instead of having humans spending 3 years in space going to Mars, a year and a half out and a year and a half back, we might be able to do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that'll be a heck of a lot better. And they'll be home.
Elon Musk could go to his house on Mars, and then he could just zip back here and take care of his Tesla factory or his SpaceX factory.
Be home for dinner.
Yeah, I mean, my commute right now is like 15, 20 minutes. So, hey, a 10-minute commute back from Mars.
Yep.
No worries.
And you could do it too. You could turn your 20-minute commute into a minute.
Hey, Bob, let's not get rash here. I'm not that eager to go to the office.
Well, that's a good point. and
let me get us back on track to that other slide you wanted me to go to next.
Yes, this is a great one. It's this one here is very interesting. I'm gonna. If you don't mind, I'm going to actually read this guy because it's one of the most fascinating slides, or things that.
Do you want me to read the quote for you?
Yes, could you? You know why I don't have Andy here.
Yeah, Sir Francis something or another, world famous pilot, observes UFO over Tasman Sea in 1931. He says, quote, "It came on, but instead of increasing in size, it diminished as it approached. When quite near, it suddenly became its own ghost. 1 second I could see through it, and the next it had vanished."
Now, isn't that fascinating, Eric? Because
my voice or the quote?
Oh, your voice is great too, and fascinating. And it's what's amazing about this is that they have been seeing these disappearing UFOs as far back as 1931. And so we're still seeing them today, in 2014 up in Canada, and in fact during the Korean War, a fighter pilot was chasing one of these UFOs, and he noticed that the edges of the UFO were becoming partially transparent, and then they would look solid, and it would kind of alternated between transparency and a solid look. And I believe that UFO was literally right on the edge of going into the bulk, and
Oh.
so anyway, I wanted to show that slide because I wanted to demonstrate that this is not some new characteristic of UFOs. We've been seeing it before, but we've never tied it to modern physics. So we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
And excellent. And this is the fun one. And this is the culmination of this part of the talk. A UFO traveling in the bulk. And basically, Alpha Centauri is 4.3 light years from planet Earth, which, Eric, is equivalent to 25 trillion miles. That's a hell of a distance, you know. Sorry about that. And
That's a heck of a distance.
Heck of a distance. And but if the UFO is able to go into the bulk, and if they only go into the bulk where the gravity force is only 10,000 of its maximum strength in the bulk, then the distance from between Earth and Alpha Centauri shrinks from 25 trillion miles all the way down, and you can flip to the next slide.
To 25 miles.
25 miles. You could literally drive to Alpha Centauri in your car in half an hour, depending on the speed limit in the bulk. and whether the galactic police have radar traps.
Here's an interesting question. When you go into the bulk, do you have to worry about asteroids, planets, other, I don't know, running into stuff? Do you have to worry about that, or even running into other ships? Let's say we're, I don't know, 500 years in the future and people are doing this all the time. Is there actually chances for collisions, or is it because you've raised to a different dimensional level? But if you're both at the same frequency or level, then wouldn't you collide?
That's a great question, Eric. And in fact, I don't normally get that question at presentations that I do. So I'm so glad you asked it, because in fact, I talk about that in the book. I believe.
Oh, that's right. I read the book.
Yeah. And, I'm sorry. I should put you on the spot. But I believe these UFOs surround themselves with KK gravitons, as we saw in one of the prior slides.
Yes.
However, those KK gravitons create micro black holes, and they expect to be doing this at the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, in the next couple of years. They're hoping that's exactly what they're going to see. You've probably heard the stories about them producing micro black holes, and it's been a bit of a panic because people thought that one of these micro black holes could start getting bigger and swallow Switzerland, and which would be a tragedy because we would no longer have any Swiss chocolate.
Or Swiss watches.
Or Swiss watches.
Yes.
But in fact, Stephen Hawking believes that micro black holes, and the physics backs him up, will decay very, very quickly. In fact, within microseconds. However, before the beauty of these micro black holes is this: if you have put an envelope of these KK gravitons and micro black holes around your spaceship, what happens to, let's say somebody fires a cannon shell at your UFO? What happens to that cannon shell? Remember that slide on black holes? What happens to that cannon shell is it's absorbed by the micro black holes, and it just totally disappears. And so that means that your spaceship is totally protected. So as long as you surround your spaceship with these KK gravitons and micro black holes, then whether you're traveling in our atmosphere, outer space, or in the bulk, nothing can harm you because it would just disappear into the black holes, and the thousands, millions of micro black holes that you create an envelope around your craft. And of interest, the KK gravitons by themselves create such a strong gravity field, up to 10 to the 16 power stronger than ordinary gravity, that a pilot also in Korea was shooting bullets at one of these, or cannon shells at one of these UFOs, and he was shocked, Eric. He was totally shocked to see the cannon shells. They, hit dead on in the middle of the UFO, but then, instead of penetrating the UFO, they traveled in a half circle around the UFO and then continued straight on the other side.
Wow.
And the reason they did that is because objects, any object always follows the shortest path in space-time, which is referred to as the geodesic, and so if you have a strong gravity field around the UFO, the geodesic is going to be around the surface of the UFO and out the other side. And so as the guys in the UFO, the pilots of the UFO, must have been laughing their heads off as they saw the pilot, blasting away and wasting all his ammunition, because it wasn't going to bother them in the least. In fact, they were just sitting in there having a cup of tea and and not bothered at all, except that it's their amusement for the day, And so anyway, I thought, Eric, we may want to do another show with the second half of that deals with the acrobatics of UFOs, how they overcome inertia.
We can do that if you want. It's almost 7:30. It might be a good time to wrap things up for people if you want to do that. We have been talking with Robert L. Schroeder, Bob Schroeder. He's the author of this book that you see on the screen right there, Solving the UFO Enigma, How Modern Physics is Revealing the Technology of UFOs. And we've gotten to the juicy part, but it gets a lot better. If you want to learn more, we'll have Bob back on hopefully next week. We got a few slots open next week, so maybe we can get him back on. I don't know. What do you think? Next Wednesday?
That's I have to talk to my wife, Carol.
Well, we'll work that out later. So
excellent. Okay. Yeah.
you look at your calendar and talk to your manager. Anyways, but you can catch Bob's book on the Amazon website. Just search by his name or the book title. I'll put a link on the Daily Specials recap as well, and so you'll be able to pull Bob up on Amazon and read his book. And also, we had Bob on season 1 on the Cosmic Cafe show. So if you go to the Cosmic Cafe show, you can see the video, but we've covered a lot of material here as well. Oh, my brain is hurting, but let me go ahead and close up the show. And if you wanted to hang on for just a quick minute while I close up the show and let people hear our closing stuff, that would be great, Bob.
And thank you for having me on the show.
Oops, I clicked away from Bob already.
Oops, okay.
Oh, we can still hear Bob. Oh, my. So let me reposition there. There we go. That's a little bit better. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in to the extended version of the Cosmic Cafe show. We went quite a bit longer than normal with guests. Normally we finish by 7, but hey, what the heck, it's an interesting topic, but I'm sure you probably need to go have your brain massaged. So we'll have Bob on maybe one of these good days next week. We'll definitely pre-announce it for sure. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Cosmic Cafe show this evening. You can find us on your favorite social media there by the banner on the on my whatever site that is. And next time we'll try and get some people into the chat room. That's ccs.chat in your browser, or go to cosmiccafeshow.com/chat, and you'll be able to ask your questions. So maybe if you had some questions or watching this during the replay, We'll have Bob on next week, hopefully, and Bob can go over your questions as well as finish telling this great story. Like I said, in the meantime, you can pick up his book also on Amazon. And with that, I think that's enough. Oh, tomorrow night we have Jeff Krause coming on. He is our returning guest. He's kind of becoming a regular here. I think that'll be his third time on in 3 Fridays. And Jeff's got some more great stuff from MUFON and UFOs, so we'll be continuing the UFO theme with Jeff. And we'll be asking him that question that we were talking about earlier at the beginning of the show. So we'll definitely want to have you tune in for that. Ask Jeff your questions as well through the chat room. And I think I've covered everything. Have I forgotten anything? We'll see you here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Have yourself a great evening, my friends, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi.